Today begins the fuel tank relocation in Jake. So I've already removed the muffler and the shielding and the sway bar. I've got the Gen Right conversion kit for the pump, and I'm following Riley Harshman's instructions that are already on the It's a Jeep World blog page. So let's dive into this. So first I need to remove this cargo area cover, which just released there, slides out, not an issue at all. Gives you access to the area that I'm going to need to cut. Let's fold this carpet back. So we're going to cut out this area here. So after cleaning the top portion, I noticed some spot welds. So now we're underneath looking, and you can see that there's an area that's spot welded, which what I'm going to do is I will try to leave that, and I'll just take the bare minimum, which is exactly what Riley said in his write-up. Just take the bare minimum. So the bare minimum would be just cutting inside of here, following that line. So that's what we're going to do. And I have it marked off with a magic marker so that we can see it where it needs to be cut. So now we have 3 sides cut out. And it's fairly close to the pinch weld, so I don't think I'm going to have to take anything extra off. Alright, as I seen it start to fall, I guess it must be just about done. There we have it. Alright, looks like this jack storage area here, which runs all the way down to here on this side, is going to have to be cut away as well. I've got the whole trunk area cut out. This part so I can see the tank. This part is where the jack went, and cut it all the way back to the back of the tub. So all the way back to here as far as I could. That way it gives it as maximum amount of room possible for the tank to fit. So that's where we're at right now. Alright, so I've marked it. So I am going to take off about that much. Right along this line here. Basically this area right here. I'm going to lop off that corner. And the same this side. We'll lop off the corner. And then we'll adjust if we need to. So the final look is, that's what I cut off. And on this side, I like that. We'll see if I need to cut any more off, and we'll adjust as we go. We also have gas tank skid plate prep. Got to cut this tower off right there, and then on the back edges, just so it's not there at all. And then we're going to cut that corner off, and I'm going to cut this top bracket off and cut it off over there. And then this portion will then, this top part will be welded right here, so it's a little bit lower, which means it'll be up higher. This tower's cut off, that angle's cut off. I cut the top of this off with this, and now I'll weld this onto here, right here. Clean it up and weld it on there. That way it won't sit, it'll sit higher underneath on the back side. Front side, however you look at it. So I'll clean this up, get this welded on. So the next step is we've got to make a mount that's going to be welded to the inside rear frame rail right here. And so I went down and got a piece of 36-inch long 1/8 by 1.5-inch angle iron, and we're going to cut it to this length here. It doesn't need to be any longer than so that it encompasses the bolt points. And then we'll V-notch the angle iron here so that the strap holes are clear. That's the next step. We get this cut to length, and I'll show you where it's going to be welded up at. The bracket is cut and notched and drilled to match the retaining straps for the tank, and for the mounting holes, retaining straps for the tank will come up through, down through there, and the holes for the skid plate match up to the bracket. And now I just need to go up underneath on the frame, which I'll show you in just a second, and weld that onto the frame so that the tank skid can be mounted to it. So it's time to clean up where I'm going to weld this bracket to. Right now it fits in between this area here with this threaded hole, and it goes all the way over to this other threaded hole. But if you wanted to, you could bolt it into there on top of the weld, or just bolt it in there in place of the weld. Up to you. You could drill a hole right through the middle here. You could have 3 mount points for just if you wanted to bolt it in, if you don't have a welder or you're not a good welder or whatever. But there's always more than one option to do everything. Alright, so a step that's going to be different with every vehicle, depending on what your skid plates look like. So the next step was just taking off the skid plate for the transfer case. I took that off. That frees up area so that I can get to all 8 of the bolts that hold the gas tank on. Well, we'll see how smoothly this goes. I got all 8 bolts out, 2 up in the front, and then 4 down the side, 4 down the other side. Actually, 3 down this side, 3 down the other side, 2 up front. So let's see how this goes. It's loose here. It's loose in the front, but I didn't check, so on my bad. So probably need to disconnect the filler hose tube from the fuel tank before I drop the rear, because it's getting caught up in all the other shit up there. Let's do that. So, after doing a little bit of research, this is probably one of the easiest connectors for the fuel lines that they've got. It's simple. This bottom part hooks on to the barb that's on the line, and to release it, all you have to do is push down, and it pulls right out. So as a demonstration, I decided to actually show you what I was talking about. I hit this first with a little bit of WD-40 just to loosen everything up in there. So you're going to take this and you're going to work it down in between these 2 points right here. And nothing's ever as easy as it seems, so just be prepared for that. So it's down in between both of them, and all you're going to do is you're going to push it hard all the way down so that it's flush against, and then you just pull the line out. Just like that. Just have to work it, spin it around, keep pushing this down. Because what this is going to do is this is going to go down, it's going to seat on this, and it's going to push, it's going to seat on this, and it's going to push these barbs out. Barbs right down the bottom down there. They're going to push them out so that they can come past this. So we're going to talk about the current issue. But this is the fill tube, obviously, and that right there goes down and goes to the evap. And this is also attached to this fill tube, which I just took off. There's a bolt that I'll show in a picture that's attached to that bracket right there. That's attached to the body, which holds it in place. That's a pain in the ass to get off too, just FYI. So now, trying to get this fill tube out. So I just pried this up all the way across here and pulled it out this way. It was not difficult. As soon as I got it past here, it just came right out of where it was up inside here. Not a problem at all. Just came right out. So I've got the whole fuel tank lines, everything as they were in the vehicle. So you've got from rollover valve to rollover valve on that side. You've got, this is a vents from the engine, and comes over here, comes into here, and then splits off and goes to the evap. So it splits off here and goes into the evap canister. So the filler tube also has a pipe that goes to the evap canister, to the filter on the evap canister. So we got to figure out all that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring out the TJ tank, and then explain how I'm going to take all of this nonsense and make it work on that tank. I know that if you're watching this video and attempting this, you know how to fabricate, but I like to be detailed anyway. So what I did was I put the filler tube back in where it's supposed to be, and what I did was I'm marking where I need to cut the filler so that I can also cut it, probably cut it right here, and then cut it right up in here so that I can take this section and turn it toward the fill neck on the tank and then weld it back together. So I've got the pipe cut down and I've got it installed back inside, and I am now going to make sure I get the right angle. So I'll stick it up in here next to, best I can, the end of the pipe that it was cut from, and point it at the filler neck on the gas tank. And then I'm going to get a Sharpie and try to get up in there and mark it. There we go. So I see a line on here. That looks like a line. It's right there. So that will be my angle. That welded on. So it's welded and it's in the right direction. And I thought I was gonna have to cut this off, but it doesn't look like it. So I've got the gas cap, or the gas filler door back on. It's in the right position where it's supposed to be, and it's sitting perfect. Pointed right at where it needs to be. I turned this vent because it goes to the rollover valves, so everything's pointed in the exact direction it's supposed to be. Awesome. Alright, so when I was underneath here last time, I made sure I marked the holes for the back bracket. So I marked them and I center punched them. So now I'm going to drill them out. Alrighty, we got those drilled. Should work. Okay, so we moved this show outside because I don't feel like getting all the fumes of this tank, because it's probably got 5 gallons in it in my shop. There's a tool to remove this ring, but nobody's got 500 bucks to pay for that. So you can make one, or rubber mallet and screwdriver or pry bar, which I've previously cleaned all this out because there's a lot of crap in there. And I vacuumed it all out, so hopefully this will come out pretty easily. There you go. pretty simple. Now I can get the vacuum, I can vacuum all this out as well. And this just, there'll be a seal in there, so I'm probably gonna lift this out, because this is what we'll be using in the other tank. All right, I got it pretty clean. Let's see, look at that. I didn't have to do anything. Just came right, just popped right out. Now that's gonna be filled with fuel, obviously, because there's fuel in the tank, so you wanna drain that out before pull it out of the tank completely. All right, so there's the JK fuel pump. There you have it. Here's the fuel pump. There's the rubber seal. So I'm gonna pop the TJ pump out of the TJ tank. I don't have the special tool for that either, so I am just gonna use a block of wood and a rubber mallet. But I'm just gonna hook it on one of these little notches and hit it. There you go. Pretty easy. Let's see if this one will just pop out. You can hear it. Yeah, there it goes. And it's under a little bit of pressure from the springs. Obviously the JK one did the same thing. All right, so there you have it. TJ pump is out. Now we can clean the tank. All right, so we've got the JKU fuel pump sending unit right here. This is the kit that I got sent to me by Jen Wright. It obviously seems pretty simple. You've got a clip here, you got a clip down here, and you've got a clip on the other side, which hold these pins to the housing. That's great. So you pull those pins, you pull this off. There's two clips right here holding that connect the electrical connectors, these two electrical connectors, and there's an electrical connector on the inside of the filter. You need to extend these wires, these two wires and these two wires. And that's what they give you this long piece of wire for, so that you can splice it in and then shrink wrap it. But I like to use these. So I'm gonna be using these shrink wrap solder connectors all in one. And all you do is put the wires in, hit it with a heat gun, and it shrink wraps around the wire and releases the solder inside to connect the wires together. So that's how I'm gonna splice these two and these two wires and extend them so that they're long enough to not get bound up when it's at full extension with these new rods. So it's pretty simple if you can get it. I mean, I took that one off with no problem at all. We're gonna take this float off of here real quick, because it should just push this clip right here, pop it up off the other clip, and it should just slide right out. That way it's not gonna get damaged. Just like that. Set that aside. I'm try to take this other clip off of the top up here. This one has just a push right here, push that down and pull it right out. Same with this one. This one's a little bit different. This shorter side over here that does not have a clip on it, you can just pull that out and spin this over a little bit and give yourself a little bit more room to work with on this clip, because you have to push the catch toward the plug and then pull up on the plug to release it. All right, so as I said, there's just a little clip on the back side, and you just have to, if you can reach in there with your finger, great, and push it toward the plug, and then it'll come right out. what you're doing is you're pushing this down so that this little nipple right here unclips from the plug on the inside. And now I can cut and splice that once I figure out much longer I need it to be. All right, so back to trying to get these clips off. Actually, now that I have the clip off the bottom of here, there's no clip off of here. All right, so working on this hose, what I'm gonna do is there's a little clip right here. There's a little clip right here that removes this. There's another clip on this side, so that what I can do is I can take this whole center section out with the hoses attached, and then this will come completely off because these are not connected anymore. And then it should just slide up, and since these are not connected anymore, it should just come right out. It might be a little easier to work on with all these hoses attached. All right, so strangely enough, I got this screwdriver, little flat tip, 1/8 inch, and I pushed it inside this groove that's available, and I just held the clip and spun the rod and tried to pull it out at the same time. And in spinning the rod, the clip came off the rod with the pressure of the screwdriver holding it in place. So I was able to remove both sides of the clips, both clips on each side. So we've got all that off now. But I was kind of pleasantly surprised that they came off that easily. At least something's working out right. Okay, since we're tearing this thing all down anyway, over here on this side, there's another little clip. Just pull it up and slide this off. And then this clip will unclip from here. It just sits in a groove right there. And you can detach the whole base. That way we've only got these two parts that we're trying to deal with. All right. I've got everything taken apart way further than I needed to, obviously, because, you know, I never do anything easy. This piece of hose, which goes on the rod to allow the spring to be the correct size for the extension, I cut the wires to that same size because that's how much the rod is extending down further than factory. Okay, so we're now at the point where I'm going to splice these wires in. This is the wire with the kit, and I just need to take a little bit off of each end so that I've got something to splice to. So let's go ahead and do that. So how these work is pretty simple. Just make sure that you don't have any loose wire. Just twist it a little bit. Get them all together. I'm going to slide this down until it's at the solder. I'm going to put the extension in, and that's going to go joined together just like that. All right. I'm going to zoom in so you can watch it. I'm just going to hit it with heat gun, and it's going to melt everything together. Well, not melt everything together, but it's going to hit the shrink wrap. It's going to shrink. And the solder is going to combine. As you can see, solder melted and combined the wires, and the shrink wrap wrapped it compressed around the wire to hold it solid. So that's finished, extended. That one's done. So now we just have the thinner wired one to do, which is going to be interesting because this wire is a lot thicker than these. So once we cut that, peel back some of that sheathing, I'll see which one of my connectors is going to work the best. Just don't know if I'm going to be able to get one of these little white ones. Yeah, I guess it will work. Alrighty, so we're good to go then. Alright, so let's try to put this thing back together. First, I guess I should put this in. Where is it? Go. All right, now I can put this back on, and we have a finished product. Everything that I did needed to be done, so the process that I did and I completed is correct for what I wanted to do. You do not have to replace this hose. I went ahead and changed it anyway. That hose is 12 years old, so now I've got fresh hose in there, and I'm happy with that. So again, you don't have to replace this hose. You don't have to do anything with this hose. It just makes it easier to get everything apart, to have everything apart, to do all the splicing. So I did that. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's up to you. But anyway, there's the kit done, installed. Like I said, all we have to do now is put this back on, and then I could put it in the TJ tank, and we'll be done. There we go. So there it is, finished product. Problem is that this cover won't fit over the top of the JK pump. So initially I'm going to cut this tab off and see if it'll fit. If it doesn't, then I'm going to gradually just shave off the outside until this cover fits over the top of this, and then we'll be good to go. All right, so I cut the tab off, and there is the line that I need to remove in order for it to fit in the TJ tank, because that is the seal. So I just set the seal on top and made it even all the way around and marked it. So if I can get that removed, we should be good to go. See that can of paint? Do not forget to paint all of the surfaces that you ground, cut, chop, whatever. Where there's bare metal, there will be rust later. So make sure you spray paint everything before you put everything together. The tank is secured. You can see back here, got 2 bolts through the cross rail that mount to the tank skid. I've also got 4 bolts and there's one back in there that mount to the bracket that I welded on. So now I'm going to fit all the hosing, add the big hose, the fuel filler hose, and the vent tube. I'm gonna add all that stuff in there, but you know, some things you gotta figure out. You just gotta put it together. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'll come back and get a picture of all the lines, how I ran them and everything, because the one thing that is different on my Jeep is right here, right in back here, that is actually where my evap is mounted. So it's gonna be a little easier to run everything in there. And then I've also I'm gonna run the lines from the engine up above the, there's some cross members and some frame mounts and body mounts and things. I'll show you in a video coming up. So once I get all that done, we'll be back. So here's the new routing for the fuel line to the engine and the vacuum line from the engine. So I just tapped them into the existing plastic molded lines and then ran all new rubber up behind the frame, atop the frame, across the rails, just so everything was protected. And came over here and secured it all. That's the splice into the wiring harness. It goes over the cross member there, back to the tank. And that's all the new venting from the evap to the tank and to the spout down tube. That's from the vacuum from the engine, the wiring. So looks pretty good. It's all secure. It's not tight, but it's secure. So it should be up and out of the way and shouldn't have any issues. Hose rerouting is done. wired up 24 inches, 2 feet of wire, spliced it into this connector, ran the line to the engine. And last thing we need to do for this is put the gasket on the fuel pump. And put the fuel pump in the tank. Gotta make sure that this gasket sits down in there. And it is. That's good. A good seal. And I'm just gonna put it back on exactly how I took it off. This should just snap in place, just like that. Click, lock, there you have it. Fuel pump is installed. Fuel filler door attached. Everything lines up. Everything's tight, clamped. Even got a little rubber protector around the hose so that if it rubs against the shock bolts, it's not gonna rub through. Everything looks good and everything's secured. Pretty much job done. Just need to add some fuel and we'll see how that goes a little bit. I don't think I'm going to permanently close that off. I do have the cargo door that came with it, so I can just slide that up in there, lock that down just like that, and boom, it's covered. Job done. It's up there a good ways, so not gonna get crushed, not gonna get smashed much. We all know it's going to, so, well, that is what it is. All right, until the next time, please subscribe to this channel. I got a lot of new stuff coming out, and leave me some comments. Tell me what you think, anything you would have done differently, anything that you saw that I did that maybe I could do better. Please leave some comments. I mean, we all learn every day, learn different things, different techniques, different ways. My way is not the only way. So, see you out on the trails.